Welcome to the Ask Lee segment of my channel, and if you have any questions regarding magic, spirituality, witchcraft, demonology, the occult, whatever it may be, then all you have to do is drop it into the comments of any of the Ask Lee videos and I will add it to the queue. And I do these every Wednesday, so just look out for your questions. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Right then, straight into the first question, which was from Tilla MCE. Alright, it has a bit in the beginning and then okay, point me in the right direction if you already covered in your previous content, but the question is something I come across fairly often. Does the method of achieving a specific trance state have effect on the experience as a whole? To expand, I have often heard it said in various ways, in particular regarding intoxicants. Some say it is required, others say it is optional and can help, but not to rely on it. Others say to abstain from intoxicants while working because it clouds your judgment. How do you understand the chemical-induced states, whether this is alcohol or more traditional flying ointment type thing, or a more synthesized modern chemical? Does it have pro-con type view among your circles of influence, or how you came to understand, or is it more set in stone, non-negotiable point of view? Okay, so that's actually kind of a big topic. When it comes to trance states itself, and you know, we talk about inducing trance states in a variety of different ways, and we'll usually suggest that you find methods which work for you, and not just one method, but a multitude of methods which work specifically for you. And one of the reasons is that you may just be having an off day, a bad day, and you're trying to get into trance and the method you usually work doesn't work, so you have other things to fall back on. Another reason for that is that it depends on what work you're doing. So for instance, you could just sit down in meditation and do breath work and bring yourself into a light trance. You can use that for sigil work and things like that, but you may want to actually go deeper. So you would need to use a trance induction method which takes you deeper, and that may be dancing or drumming or treading or some kind of physical activity which brings you into exhaustion. So, you know, different trance states can have different effects. They can be used for different types of workings. When it comes to intoxicants and entheogens, I fully support the use of this method. However, it needs to be relative on an individual basis. You know, some people may have an addictive personality, and therefore, even though it could be useful to use an entheogen to induce trance, to induce that journey state that we need to get into, it may not be good for them in the long term. So, you know, those type of people should avoid it. And then it depends on the effects it has on a person. I know many people who do use mushrooms, weed, alcohol, whatever intoxicant or entheogenic, psychotropic, hallucinogenic type of substance in order to actually communicate with spirits, in order to get into that state that they need to get into and to do the work that they want to do. Me, on the other hand, when I have weed, my mind becomes so fragmented that it becomes useless. I can't do any work. I can't communicate with any spirits because everything becomes so fragmented. I have to I spend all my time basically trying to put time together in order to actually understand what's going on. So, for me, it's completely useless. So it really comes down to an individual basis. What type of personality the person has, if it will be effective, the effects that actually happen when they take the intoxicants, all these different things. So there's definitely no hard and fast set in stone rule here. It's a case of experimentation. Now, there are a couple of other things we need to bear in mind when it comes to entheogens, hallucinogenic substances, etc. Is firstly, depending on the substance, it's usually better to do it in a group setting where you have a guide, and that guide needs to be someone who has worked with this plant spirit for many years, has journeyed with the plant spirit, has spoken to the plant spirit, can be trusted, and as I said, usually in a group setting. And this is a bit like taking a bus together. The more people you have in the bus, the less likely you are to come across difficulties. And if you do, you have a group of people that can help you through that difficulty. And you have a guide, you have the driver of the bus who is taking you on the journey and knows how to take you on the journey and knows how to bring you back safely. If something comes up unexpected and you don't know what it is, you don't know how to deal with it, the guide should know how to deal with it and know exactly what it is and know how to actually get you through that situation. So group is very good, a guide is excellent. That's one situation. Another situation is that you should probably not let it become a crutch. To use entheogens in order to kind of break the barrier, to move yourself over into that state so that you can understand what it is, so you know how to get there. Some people will have a difficulty, and this can be done without using entheogens at all, but it can take a lot longer. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking that time taking those years to actually practice to get to a point where you can actually reach across that barrier. But what you'll find is that somebody is trying to break through the barrier, trying to get from this world to the other world, trying to get between states, using trance induction methods such as breathwork, dancing, drumming, etc. But they have this barrier, and the barrier is there because they don't understand what's on the other side. It's a bit like, you're in one room and there's a door, you don't know what's in the other room. And you can't get to the other room because you don't know what to expect. There's nothing there, and that's actually a good thing. But quite often our brains won't allow us to get through there because we don't know what's on the other side. A bit like Columbus coming to America, and the tribe of Native Americans were watching the water on the sea, and they could see the water parting and the waves and everything, but they couldn't see a boat because boat just did not exist in their understanding, their mind, in their reality. The shaman could see the boat because the shaman allowed himself to expand beyond what was reality, this physical reality. So he could see the boat, but it's very much that you don't know what's on the other side, therefore you don't allow yourself to go there. And sometimes that barrier needs to be broken and shattered so that you can move across, you're forced across, and then you know what's there. And once you see what's there, you can then do that journey yourself a lot easier. But breaking down that barrier yourself is quite possible, absolutely possible, and it's very rewarding to do it that way. It's just to do it yourself. Take that time, do that practice so that you can break that barrier down and move across to the other side. But using entheogens can give you that boost. It can be, we talk about ego death and things like that, and this is definitely something that can happen in this situation, because you are smashing that barrier. You're not easing across the barrier to try and get to the other room. You are literally smashing it to pieces. You are shattering it. You are shattering your own ego in order to get across. So you're using something, a tool, to shatter that barrier so that you can get across. Once you're across, you know what's there. You can then do that yourself at a later stage. The difficulty there is that people then start to rely on the tool. And once you start relying on the tool, you're not doing it yourself, and it kind of takes away from you. So my suggestion is, if you're going to use entheogens to do the work, is use it as a tool to get to where you need to go, and then learn how to do that yourself without the tool. While you're in that learning process, you may still need the tool a few more times. That's fine, as long as you understand that it's not the tool that should be doing the work, it should be you doing the work. You're using the tool to allow yourself to understand how to do the work. Okay, so I don't know, I think that answers everything there. Hopefully it does. The next question is from Erebus Pitch Black 3547. Is it possible that if President Marbas appeared in your dream and he's giving you a gift, he's trying to reach you? Thank you, Sir Lee. Just Lee will do. Yes, absolutely, definitely. If any spirit appears in your dream and starts talking to you, especially if they give you a gift, I think it's a bit obvious that they want to actually work with you. So, yes, definitely. I don't think there's much more I can add to that one, actually. So let's go. Come on, go back. There we go. Number 4. All right. Key. This is KIIII 33333. Okay. I love reading the handles. So much more fun. Hello Lee, I'm a complete beginner in demonology. I was wondering, what are some most well-known feminine demons? Could you tell more about them? Thank you. It's hard finding reliable info about demonesses. I think what you'll probably find is it's difficult because so many people still refer to them as all being masculine, because that's how they are referred to in the old medieval grimoires. However, they're not all masculine. Boon from the Goetia is feminine. There's a lot that are feminine in the Goetia. But what you'll also find, I think this was the one that I actually replied to regarding S. Connolly's book, quite a recent book, The 4 Demon Queens, I think it was called. But she has in there Lilith, Hecate, Tesrian, and Delapature. Those are the 4 that she works with in that book. Excellent book, great book. Gives you different methods to work with these 4 demonesses. Yeah, really good book. But you'll find that there's a lot more. I mean, even we a lot of demonologists will work with goddesses such as Inanna, mostly because of the association with Astarte, and therefore a lot of people make the association with Astaroth in those terms. But there are many goddesses that are worked with in demonology. So you have to remember that when we're talking about demonology, there's a bit of a difficulty here, because you did actually use the word demonology, which is, as I've mentioned in the past, is the study of demons, and that's usually done by Christian people, and therefore it usually comes from a very negative perspective. And in that regards, demons are everything which is not the Christian God. So, that covers everything to begin with. Then we come to demonology and working with demons or worshipping demons. And in this regard, demon is considered to be divine intelligence, and that divine intelligence can be many, many things as well. It doesn't just refer to things like the Goetia spirits or the Jinn. A divine intelligence is an ascended master, is a god or a goddess, is a spirit of the fifth dimension. So, we've got a lot of different spirits. We just tend to focus more on the ancient Middle East, so Egypt, Sumeria, Babylon, those areas there. So, I mean, you could look into the Egyptian, there's many goddesses in there. You can look into the Sumerian and Mesopotamian, there's many goddesses there. But there is a heavy focus on that area, therefore working with the Goetia and the Jinn. But as I said, the Goetia itself, there's a lot of feminine figures in there. They just are referred to as being masculine. And again, when it comes to spirits, we have to also bear in mind that they do not have gender. I know somebody did argue with me in some comments, and that's fine. Just because I believe one thing doesn't mean everybody has to believe it. But from my own understanding, the spirits don't have gender. They appear to us in a form which we feel we can relate to. So Boone, Amy, there's a lot in the Goetia that usually appear as feminine. Sea-Tree for me. Although they do appear as feminine, when I am working with them, they're not women, they're not female, they're not gender. They are balls of energy, they are non-binary. They do not have a gender. So, it's really how we relate to them best. So if I work with Boone and Boone appears to me as a woman, to another person may appear as a man. Just because that person can relate better to that spirit as a man rather than the woman. Somebody else, Boone may appear as a mythical creature. Then gender doesn't matter. Well, could do, might not. So, when it comes to gender, it can get quite difficult to say that a spirit is feminine or female demon, a demoness. Can't really say that actually. At the same time we can, because they appear in that form. Okay, let's see if I can just do one more question. Richard Gartner 6648. I have a question. Well, I know it's Richard. I know who Richard is. I have a question. What is the difference between a fetch beast, fetch mate, and spirit animal? Is there a difference in them when journeying between the worlds? Okay. So, my own understanding, again, because when it comes to talking about or referencing the fetch, there's a lot of cultural and historical basis to this, and it can differ quite a bit. But specifically talking about the fetch beast and the fetch mate, which are the fetch. They are both the fetch. So they are one body, but the fetch beast, for me, does one thing, the fetch mate does another thing. So for me, the fetch beast is the personal animal, what a lot of people refer to as a power animal. And this is my own animal nature. And it's the nature of myself which I then ride into the other world. So your fetch beast is your guide and your guardian. You usually ride it to the other world. You can shapeshift into your fetch beast and become the fetch beast, and then travel into the underworld as that animal. The fetch mate itself for me is more my higher self, my holy guardian angel. It's the fairy companion. And, if we go into the Holy Guardian Angel, the HGA, the personal daemon, what we find is that there's usually talk of marriage. So we marry our Holy Guardian Angel. So we first have knowledge and conversation, and then we have a marriage. That marriage is a union of two things into one. So this is where we then go into mythology with the fairy companion, where we marry our fairy companion. So all of these things cross over. So the fetch beast and the fetch mate are the fetch, and the fetch is part of our soul. It's just that the way I view it is the fetch beast is the lower self, the fetch mate is the higher self. We bring those into union and we have a whole. We bring them into union in the middle self. So that's my own UPG understanding of those two things. When it comes to spirit animal, a spirit animal is very much a guide. And you can have many spirit animals, and they don't always stick around for your whole life. So you may just have one pop up just to give you a message or guide you in a particular direction, and then it'll disappear. So spirit animals come and go. Power animals, what I refer to as power animals, which is the fetch beast, that's permanent. That is you. That is your soul. So it's not a spirit which comes and goes. But the spirit animals will come and go, give you messages, send you on a different path, will guide you in a particular direction if you need to. And yes, so that's it. And we've also got things like familiars. Familiars are usually spirits which stick around for a long time. In some traditions, you create a familiar, which is a similar circumstance as creating a servitor, and that creation of a familiar can, in some traditions, only be for a year, and then you create a new one, or you give that one more energy. So it's you take it in an annual cycle. Others, the familiar spirit is something which is given to you by a god or a goddess. So these are very broad, big topics. And through history and mythology and tales and stories and things like that, we find different applications and different understandings, and especially when you start looking regionally and culturally, they all have different, people have different ways to actually view these things. So that's my understanding anyway. Is there a difference in them when journeying between the worlds? Is there a difference between the worlds? We talk about this world and we talk about the other world, or the middle world and the other world, upper world, lower world, etc., etc. But are they actually really different? We only separate them because it makes it easier for us to function, and we need to function in normal everyday life. So we do separate them for that reason, but they're not really separate. If we have a spirit animal, a lot of spirit animals for me have popped up while I've been taking a walk. Physically, what we call physical. A lot of spirit animals pop up that way. A spirit animal could pop up while you're taking an astral journey. So, whether you take an astral journey or whether you're taking a walk in the park, you're still in both worlds at the same time. It's just that our awareness is on one particular thing. So these spirit animals, the fetch beast, the fetch mate, they exist in all of these realities and all of these worlds, all at the same time, and they're with you. You don't have to go to the other world in order to communicate with your fetch, or you don't have to go to the other world in order to communicate with a spirit animal. You can step outside and sit in your garden and ask the spirit animal to come to you. In some situations, a spirit animal may be an animal which is not indigenous to your area. It could actually be a mythological being, a griffin or something like that. So, in circumstances like that, you'll probably only meet them when you're doing astral work. But really, they don't need to be... we shouldn't have this separation between this physical and the other astral world. They all existed together. So, yeah. Alright, so that's it for today. I'll see you next week. Have a good one. Cheers. Bye bye.